We all know the key to success, don't we? It's working hard or working smart to move up to the top, right? A smart young man putting his interests and efforts into the right business will go somewhere. Maybe he'll even become a highly respected person in his field. He for sure will be admired in his community and his family will be very proud of him. We all know how it goes when this doesn't work out. That same young man, imagine he's unable to keep a job. He's an embarrassment to his family with his poor situation, and he ends up on the street. So pathetic that he's even mistaken for, you could say, a common criminal. It's very shameful, isn't it? And even, you could say, depressing. But what if that's not how it works? What if we're missing, you could say, the real secret to success? Well, there's someone who can shed some light on this, and that is none other than Saint Joseph of Cupertino. Now, he failed at school, he failed at home, and he even failed at being a Franciscan friar. He reached rock bottom, being expelled. Can you imagine that? He was even expelled from the order. And then after that, even his mother, she wouldn't help him. Well, she kind of did. She was able to find some miserable job for him, working in a stable, taking care of donkeys. So you might be asking me, brother, how on earth does this poor wretch have anything to teach us about success? Well, to find out, I will need to take my trusty magnifying glass so we can take a closer look at this unexpected role model and also the unexpected miracle that occurred in his wretched life. Now, it's true that everything Joseph tried to do ended in failure, at least in the eyes of the world. But he did everything with a heart that was overflowing with love of God, even when he didn't know what was going to happen next. He wanted to be a friar, but instead he ended up being expelled. And now he was just a simple stable boy at the convent of La Grotelle. But Joseph, he took this with his usual trust in God and cheerful disposition. He even would go around humorously calling himself Brother Donkey. Well, and something unexpected happened. His cheerful disposition became a kind of, you could say, attraction for the friars of the convent. They would even make excuses to go out to the stables to be able to talk with him. So pleasant was it to be around his good cheer, his lightheartedness, and his kindness. Even the poor folk of the village also loved him for the same reason. He would always have the right words of consolation or advice for those who stopped by. And just his mere presence brought happiness to all those that were around him. After a while, seeing the joy that he was providing everyone who visited him, the friars, they finally decided to, you know what, let's reconsider admitting him to the Franciscan order. And as you can imagine, after quite a bit of a discussion, they finally came to agreement and they readmitted him. But they didn't know what to do with him, since he had previously demonstrated that he was not very good at even the most basic daily chores like serving the table. But they finally decided to send him off to study for the priesthood, thinking perhaps he could serve the community in that way. Well, I'm sure you all imagine that St. Joseph, he was overjoyed at the possibility of being a priest. But as we also know, Joseph was never very good at his studies. He struggled to read. He wasn't able to comment on the Gospels, or even he couldn't even memorize the chants or texts that were required of the seminarians, those that were the candidates for the priesthood. But he was fully aware of his weakness, and he commended himself to our Blessed Mother. So he would stay up late at night to study, putting in every effort to improve. Now, St. Joseph's, his closeness to our Blessed Mother sustained him throughout his whole life. And she can also be our sustenance. And there's no better way to grow closer to our Blessed Mother than through the famous, you could say, consecration to Jesus, to the hands of our Blessed Mother, using that method of the famous St. Louis de Montfort. And in the Heralds, we offer everyone this consecration, and it's completely free and completely online. So take that next step in your spiritual life and give your heart to our Blessed Mother. You won't regret the remarkable changes she can work in your life. And for that, I've placed a link in the description of this video. Now back to St. Joseph. St. Joseph Cupertino, he had a certain gospel phrase that he held especially dear. And it was from the Gospel of St. Luke, chapter 11, verse 27. And it goes like this. A woman in the crowd says to Jesus, "Blessed be the womb that bore thee." Of course, referring to our Blessed Mother. This one small phrase, it touched Joseph's heart. And because of that, he could expound on it at length, inspired by grace and not by study. Now, the day of his diaconal ordination arrived. As you can imagine, the friars were concerned, for he had learned very little of the required material. And this final exam before his ordination, we require him to comment on a phrase of the gospel chosen by the bishop that was giving the exam. So when it came his turn, he approached the bishop with, you can well imagine, no small worry. To the bishop, he opened the gospels at random, placed his finger on a page without looking, and then looked down and read the selected phrase to Joseph. And the phrase was, "Blessed be the womb that bore thee." Now, what a grace. As you can imagine, Joseph's heart just sang. He spoke marvelously on the subject, astonishing everyone in attendance. And so, with that, he was ordained a deacon. Now, before we get to St. Joseph's priestly ordination, which was also, I could say, miraculous, I want to mention that in the Heralds, we offer online courses to aid you in sound Catholic formation. And they are on our Reconquest platform, where you can subscribe to have access to dozens of trustworthy courses on, many of them, on doctrine, Mariology, family life, many other courses. And also your subscription will help support our missionary activities. So for that, I will place a link in the description below. Now let's return to St. Joseph Cupertino's surprising success. Now the time came for his priestly ordination. Worry once again set in among his fellow friars. Joseph certainly wasn't capable of passing the exams. Moreover, that friendly local bishop was traveling, and the examination will be given by a severe bishop from a neighboring area. But off Joseph went, spending the night in prayer with the long line of other candidates who were to be examined by the bishop early the next morning. One after another, the young men passed their exams with flying colors. Not a single one showed any weakness in his learning. And the bishop, he was very impressed. Moreover, after a dozen or so examinations, a messenger arrived to deliver an urgent letter. With this distraction and the easy approval of the men already tested, the bishop, he decided to call it a day, and he passed a lot of them, rather than continue on examining all of them individually. And so, in the year of our Lord, 1628, at the age of 25, St. Joseph Cupertino became a priest of our Lord Jesus Christ. As a friend later commented, he received the priestly ordination by a singular grace of God and by the help of the Blessed Virgin Mary. In fact, St. Joseph reveals the key to success. Our true success in life is when we completely fulfill our vocation. A person can be successful in all sorts of things without those things being what God desires of him. Much as a man may become an excellent musician, a brilliant writer, an admired head of a large family, a notable member of his community, or any other achievement, if these activities are not part of the vocation to which God calls him, they are useless. Now, if a person loves God with all his heart, with all his soul, as St. Joseph Cupertino did, then it matters not how poor his qualifications to worldly successes are, for God will guide him to his destined vocation despite all difficulties. He who loves God above all things and does not love himself, he who is not attached to his own things, is assisted by grace. Providence will arrange everything so that he may realize the plans God has for him. God will perform miracles if necessary, so that he will arrive at the end to which he was called. Really, when we ask if someone is a success, it is this that should be on our minds. Does he love God? Does he follow God's will for him? If so, everything will turn out right. As Pope Pius XI once said in his encyclical Ad Catholici Sacerdoti, to Catholic priests, he said this: sanctity is the first and most important quality of the Catholic priest. Without sanctity, the other gifts he may have, they don't count for very much. With sanctity, even if he has a few other gifts, he will realize miracles, as you can see in the life of St. Joseph of Cupertino. Now, St. Joseph, he has many secrets to share with us. But unfortunately, my time is up. So I'm going to ask you to join us in our next episode to discover the astonishing miracles of St. Joseph that occurred after his ordination, and they also led to unexpected trials, and how his attitude led to remarkable consequences. So I guarantee you do not want to miss it. So I hope to see you then. God bless and Salve Maria.